And welcome for those that are on the video tonight, and also for those that will be watching the video throughout this week. We're going to try something a little different today because Deborah just shared something absolutely beautiful. So I'd like to invite her to speak in, but I also want to remind you to check in with us on gracehealing.video on YouTube or gracehealing.org. And we are going to open our hearts into the possibility of understanding how vast and great God is. And Deborah, I'd love for you to share what you just shared.
Well, it's all about connecting with our God, sincerely opening our heart, seeking in prayer, meditation. And I minister at a rehab for people struggling with addiction. And a few weeks ago, I had one woman in particular that was participating and really her heart was open to living God. And we spoke about prayer. We spent some time together. And then I saw her 2 weeks later, and she couldn't wait to tell me that she went into her room, got on her knees, and poured her heart out for her 5-year-old son who was nonverbal, never spoke a word. Well, the next day she got a call that he is now speaking. So that's just one simple example of opening our hearts. And
And now he's probably a little chatterbox, right?
I'm sure, I'm sure the woman, her life will never be the same, obviously. And that's what God
Yes.
intends,
Yep.
that our lives would be transformed. And we
Exactly.
just find true freedom. So,
Awesome. And thank you, because this week I kind of wanted to shift things a little bit to also state to you that I've been a little bit remiss in the fact that over these past years, I haven't shared a lot of details about the wonders that I've been able to experience. And I think that I was kind of hanging on to that because the churches of the past used to attack me because they would witness miracles and then tell me not to say anything. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. One of the things I'd like to clarify is just like what Deborah just shared with that woman, in a fervent desire in the depths of God's presence, in the deepest place within her, she sought God in prayer. And in that, in the name of God, in the presence of God, sought from the deepest place, prayer manifested a result where this child, being nonverbal, all of a sudden speaks. I was blessed to witness the same type of experience with a child that he was 5.5, 6 years old as well, was nonverbal, never spoke a word his whole life, went to pray over him, showed up in the room, was requested by the parents to be there, went to pray over the little boy, went to put my hands on his head and found my hands moving up above his head and found that he hadn't integrated into the vessel body, the vessel human. And his spirit was up here without contact. And then praying before the presence of God, it descended and boom, he started, and then all of a sudden he and his little sister go running out of the room. The mom and dad are freaking out. But the idea is that, like in my experience, it is my hope that all the wonders I've experienced, because I've been blessed to serve tens of thousands of people, and all the things that I've experienced, I don't want people to attach them to me. Because I'm not some guy like Harry Potter walking in and say, I'm going to cast this spell and that's going to happen. I show up in absolute trust that God has an answer beyond my understanding. And as I pray, I move in the recognition that God will bless my tongue to speak the words of prayer, guide my hands to move in the way that He intends, and that His glory would be revealed so that the others might discover glory within themselves, like Deborah said, that the individual would be transformed. This is not about what I've been graced to witness. This is about what you are graced to participate in. And it's about allowing ourselves to be transformed, recognized of the miraculous, embracing the opportunity that even though we don't fully understand something, God may open our eyes to witness something in a new way. For instance, I was at a local church here, and I was asked to be there for a number of different reasons. And I was standing there with two priests, but they had the original church was built with the intention to be open for anybody at any time. Deborah and I were talking about this earlier, that there's no contemplative space in many churches. It's all a show. Well, the idea was to leave the sanctuary open for people to access at any point during their days. But what was happening was there was a body of people within that church that were so filled in fear, all they could think was, oh my God, what if somebody destroys the church? What if somebody comes in and vandalizes? What if somebody comes in and does this or does that? And so they called for a meeting. And the priests were standing there with me, and we were at the front of the worship, not the altar, but the entrance to the worship space. And all the people were sitting around in chairs throughout the worship space, facing the altar and having the meeting and the discussion. And as I said, this wasn't like me showing up and saying, I'm going to pray and God's going to do this. I showed up in absolute trust that God's presence would present, and I didn't know why God had me there. But as I was standing, there was a priest at my right and a priest at my left, and we were standing right by the risen cross, the cross without Jesus' form on it. It was set in the floor, and Yeshua's presence is already ascended, so the cross is empty, and that's the risen form of the cross. As we were standing there at the opening of the sanctuary space, I saw an image of a darkened figure moving through the group or the crowd. Every single person this form came up behind, this grayed, like blackened form, every person that it came behind all of a sudden started speaking the fears. Well, what if they destroy this? What if they smash that? What if they do this? What if somebody paints the walls? And I would see somebody that was not governed in the fear that would say something simple like, well, we'll just repaint. It's more important that we have the space open. And then you would watch, or I was seeing this form shift to another person that would get angry, adamant about fear, and what if somebody does this? And they were supporting the negative arguments about keeping the sanctuary space open. And I said to the priest, do you see what's happening here? And they're like, yeah, there's a lot of fear. And I said, no, but do you see what's governing the fear? And they were like, what do you mean? Now, I didn't do this by design. Just all of a sudden, I moved my arms and I grabbed their elbows, his elbow and the elbow to the priest on my left. And they both jumped back because they saw the demonic form that was lighting from person to person that was trying to get fear going in the meeting. So again, there's nothing to fear here. This is nothing that I was wielding as a power that you don't have. This was just an opportunity to engage in the living presence of God in absolute trust that God would reveal. What it did for these priests is it moved them to a position after they were over their initial shock of seeing it with their own eyes. It moved them to a place where we could pray for the group to be freed from the fears, and that whole congregational body decided in a final vote, no, we're still keeping the sanctuary open. So from a beautiful child that is nonverbal, prayed over by a mom, and the nonverbal becomes verbal, the blessing of engaging in life fully becomes present and apparent to be witnessed. The glory of God is seen through this child, to this mom, and the expression of this life. In addition to that, the wonderful little boy I was blessed to pray over, the little boy and his sister are out there blabbing away in the next room over, just having a ball like it was never an issue. But to the little girl, it wasn't. Now her brother's talking. So they just had this wonderful conversation. The mom and dad were shaken. So I'm hopeful not to leave you in a place where you're shaken. I'm hopeful to leave you in a place that you could recognize the glory of God that is already present within you. And as we shift into a meditative awareness now, I would ask that you might consider that not only is God's presence in you, but if you engage in absolute trust that God can move through you you will witness things beyond your understanding. And you will be guided by God as you witness them. God will never forsake you or abandon you. When something of a spiritual nature is shown to you, God's holy protection will reside. As I witnessed that thing unfold, and there wasn't even a momentary touch of fear. There was only recognition that, oh, God opened my eyes. Oh, then God's in charge. There's a knowing of God's presence. And again, it's not like walking in and wielding a wand. It's walking in total trust and saying, God, this is yours. And I would ask that you might meditate right now and open your heart to receive the true reality that the breath you breathe in this moment, breathing deep, this breath formed within the living name of our God and Creator and Yahweh Elohim, fully manifested in the image that He established of Himself in Yeshua, and the full expression of the life-giving breath that is Abun, that is resident within you. I pray that you wake throughout this week, allow for the transformation that Deborah speaks to let that transformative moment take hold within you and breathe once again. Trust and know that even as Carl Jung would say, you have not seen reality yet. But there is, this is my words on top of Carl Jung, that there is a reality, that God's presence is not only within you, but God's presence precedes you into every single encounter. As you breathe deep, allow this breath to be a reminder to breathe deep before you enter any situation of stress, relinquishing stress, embracing fortitude. Allow this breath, this moment, this opportunity at living prayer to imbibe and increase within you so that he who enter into any situation that would foster fear, a doctor's evaluation, or anything that you might be going to, a legal process, a corporate situation that you're facing, search the presence of God first and breathe deep in Yahweh Elohim Iliakatun Delachalam, Yeshua Alachalim Ilukotali Yameh, Avun Sala Alamundarek Yishmayatara. Remembering the words that Yeshua spoke in the Azrai Inai, as we return as one, trust and know that the living presence of our God and Creator, the very author of all things blessed within creation, the provider for all that you seek, the sustainer for all that you encounter, and the completer in the form of blessing for all situations revealed. We breathe once again. Yahweh, we thank you for the holy gift of this moment of contemplative center and focus upon your presence. We breathe the living breath that you extend in each and every moment, for we are one in you. Allowing for these moments of quiet and peace to free you from thoughts of the day, to free you from concerns of the future, to be present in the living breath of God within you. Yarve lachim iriam tutala kundale. Yeshua alachalim undalakuthanyu nebesmia. Avun salalmie kwandala hipeyana. In English, Yahweh, God and Creator, Sustainer in all things, Yeshua, the full manifestation and visible presence of our God and Creator, Avun, the holy and life-giving breath that carries us forward to reveal your glory. Amen.